Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Garden of Sports. We're your hosts, Zach Gardner, alongside my brother, Jake Gardner.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us today. It was a crazy week this week in the NHL, and we will break it all down for you. We have surprises of the week, storylines, injury news, of which there is a ton once again, so strap in for that. And then a few buy low and sell high trades, and of course, scoop them up. So let's get right to it, eh?
Okay.
So let's start it off here. Surprises of the week. Cam Atkinson, 21 fantasy points, 3 goals and 2 assists in 3 games. Looking very, very good. Most likely own. He's just been, he's kind of hasn't been this hot at all this year. Known as a pretty good scoring guy. Just good, kind of a surprise. Hasn't really made the list at all this week or any other week. And then we have, for the Nashville Predators, they have a lot of injuries going on right now, but Philip Forsberg is still playing. But this week it was Tanner Jeannot, Alexander Carrier, and Colton Sissons just going off for the Predators. 3 guys that you would not the usual suspects. You'd think that maybe a young guy like Eli Tolvanin or Philip Forsberg would be carrying the team with all these injuries, but hasn't really been the case this week. And then Travis Sanheim, defenseman on the Philadelphia Flyers, had a great week. 2 goals, 2 assists in 3 games. So I mean, it's just good numbers. He 6 shots on goal, a couple hits. Like, he just kind of does it all. Looking pretty good. And then
Nice.
Evan Rodriguez, young forward on Pittsburgh Penguins. He had a really good week this week, and I guess still a little bit of a surprise because I still don't really know much on this player, but he was kind of getting top line time this week, but I still didn't expect that he would do so much with it. There's a lot of guys that get moved up to the top line at times during the season and they do nothing. So I definitely wasn't expecting this guy to really kind of go off for the Penguins this week. And then Tyler Myers, defenseman on Vancouver, normally known as just a pure defensive player, not a guy that usually puts up fantasy stats, but he did really well this week. Looking for him on my list here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Jake, stall him.
What are you looking for? Tyler Myers?
Yeah, so Tyler Myers,
What about him?
I can't find him on here, but oh no, there he is. He had 3 assists in 3 games. He doesn't normally score points. Had a good week, not a normal suspect for scoring. And then Nathan Walker, this guy had a great week, especially in a banger league. This guy, we'll be talking about him later in the scoop section, but Nathan Walker scored 13 fantasy points this week. And he got a ton of hits. I think he had 16 hits or something crazy this week. So he just does a lot, especially in a banger league. He should be owned, I guess, in that kind of format. He just had a great week, but definitely was a surprise to me. And then Nick Schmaltzy for the Arizona Coyotes. He did really well. He had 3 assists in 2 games, had a power play point, kind of is a guy that does it all. Gets some hits, gets some blocks, gets some shots on goal. He was a pretty good fantasy player last season, but he really started slow this year. So it's good to see him kind of get going, and Arizona kind of get going as a result. They had a pretty good week. So those are my surprises of the week. Definitely a lot of more obscure guys having great weeks this week.
Okay.
So now we'll break into some storylines here. I have a couple articles of some crazy stuff that happened this week. So we had a lot of teams get shut down for COVID. So I think either yesterday or 2 days ago, they added 2 more to the list, so it's 5 teams that were shut down um, for this week. So I'm referencing this article here from the Wichita Eagle. The NHL on Saturday shut down the Boston Bruins and the Nashville Predators through Christmas, bringing the number of teams in COVID limbo to 5. Weekend games for the Canucks and Maple Leafs were also postponed as the league tries to control a spiraling outbreak in its locker rooms. So the Bruins and the Predators join Calgary, Colorado, and Florida, which already had been shut down through next week because of outbreaks. Saturday night's game between Toronto and Vancouver and Sunday's Arizona, Vancouver, and Toronto, Seattle games were also postponed amid worsening conditions across North America due to the Omicron variant of the coronavirus. And the NHL's plan, according to Bruins general manager Don Sweeney, the NHL has no plans on pausing the season. They want to get all the games in and have a full Stanley Cup playoffs. So they're kind of like all the GMs and owners and everybody. They're just kind of like, it may take periods where we're in now where we have to step back, but our intention is to play a full season and follow best practices, and that's going to take adaptability. So the NHL is going to do everything possible to not pause the season. So that's just kind of where we're at. They're going to just keep, if they have to, they're just going to keep, postponing games and giving teams like a week off. And hopefully they don't have to do that too much, because eventually if it keeps happening and they have to keep pushing stuff back, they're going to have to maybe pause the whole season or maybe just come up with new policies, but they're going to work through it and figure it out. But just, kind of a big storyline there. All these teams getting games postponed. And then another kind of big storyline, kind of with all this COVID news, this kind of got lost in the whole shuffle of all the craziness this week. But from this article from Forbes here, but you could find this news anywhere. Paul Maurice, head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, he resigned this week. He just stepped down, and Dave Lowry is named the interim coach. Apparently they need a different voice, is what he said. He said they need somebody this is from Paul Maurice, the guy who stepped down. They need somebody to help them get to that next place. He emphasized that he didn't feel that he had lost the room or that the Jets players had stopped listening to him, but it doesn't need to be a more experienced, necessarily more talented guy. It needs to be a different voice because it's the right time for it. So, kind of really surprising, because Paul Maurice has done a pretty good job objectively with the Winnipeg Jets. He's known as a pretty good coach in the league. So I was definitely shocked to hear that. He just kind of stepped away.
I only have one question.
Yeah.
Is this going to affect Poink at all?
I don't think it's going to affect Poink all that much. I don't think you got to worry there, bud.
Okay, perfect. I'm good then.
He's going to get out there he's going to lace him up, get out there on the ice, and he's just going to do his thing, bud. So.
Oh, yeah.
No, but yeah, Paul Maurice resigns, and they have an interim coach. This is a case where I don't think this is really going to affect the team all that much. Because they weren't doing terrible. They weren't spiraling out of control. There wasn't anybody like not listening to him so it's just kind of a weird one to me. I just kind of out of left field. So yeah, I just thought that was strange, but obviously a big storyline as far as that team's concerned. And then buckle up for all the injury news, guys. I'm just gonna read through these. So just bear with me here. So we got Brandon Tanev, he's day-to-day lower body. We got Kyle Turris out with an undisclosed injury. He was injured blocking a shot on Thursday. Jamie Alexiak out, COVID-19. We got Tanner Caro. He was stretchered off the ice yesterday against the Blackhawks with after a hit that somebody put on him. He's day-to-day with an upper body, but stretchered off. He's probably going to miss some time. Martin Nietzsche, day-to-day upper body injury. Jesper Bratt out with the illness. Jack Campbell out, COVID-19 protocol. TJ Brody out, COVID-19 protocol. Jesse Puljujarvi, injured reserve for COVID-19. So I guess he has COVID, is what that means. Taylor
Yeah.
Hall, Taylor Hall, COVID-19, injured reserve. Nate Schmidt, day-to-day with an illness, not COVID-related. Tyler Myers, out, COVID-19. Oscar Sundquist, out, COVID-19. Mackenzie Blackwood, out with a neck injury. That doesn't sound good. Carter Hart, out, illness. Alex Nedeljkovic, injured reserve for COVID-19. Evgeny Svechnikov, out, undisclosed. Jason Spezza, Wayne Simmons, out, both with COVID-19. Will Butcher, day-to-day with an illness, not COVID-related. Nicholas Backstrom just got back from his, missing the whole start of the season, and then now he's got COVID and he's on IR. John Tavares on IR with COVID. Alex Kerfoot out on IR with COVID. Calvin DeHaan out with an illness, not COVID-related. Sergei Bobrovsky, day-to-day, undisclosed. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on IR with COVID. Michael Backlund out with COVID. Cale Makar out with COVID. A lot of guys out with COVID. Nikita Zaitsev on injured reserve with a heel injury. Darcy Kemper out with COVID-19. This is just crazy. PK Subban on IR with COVID-19. Andrei Burakovsky out with COVID-19. JT Compher out with COVID-19. Drew Doughty out with COVID-19. Lawson Krause out with COVID-19. Trevor Van Reamsdike out with COVID-19. Jeremy Swayman out with COVID-19. Just a ton of guys. Artemi Panarin out with COVID-19. Artemi Panarin out with a lower body injury. Aaron Ekblad is out with COVID-19. Carter Verhaeghe out with COVID-19. Radko Gudas, Sam Bennett out with COVID-19. Evgeny Kuznetsov out with COVID-19. Jacob Markstrom out with COVID-19. This is just getting crazy, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So many injuries. Just a ton of guys. I don't even want to keep going through this list. It's so long.
Hey,
Rasmus
just link it.
Anderson, Eric Goodbranson, Trevor Lewis, Johnny Gaudreau, Robbie Fabry, Patrice Bergeron, Robert Hagg, Andreas Athanasiou, Jordan Stahl, Stephen Lawrence, Andrei Svechnikov. Yes, we went over that one already. Brad Marchand, Devin Taves, Matthew Bartzel, all these guys out with COVID. Sean Monahan, Milan Lucic, Noah Hannafin, just a ton of guys. So I'm reading off of puckpedia.com. So if you guys, are curious on all these injuries, I just named off a ton of guys, and I got about halfway through the list. So honestly, it's just been an insane week with the injuries. So you guys can go to puckpedia.com, and they have you can see all the injuries. It's updated like by the minute, so you can just keep refreshing it if more news is breaking. But it's a great little tool to help with all the injuries if you're curious on it. I think I listed all like the big ones. So, and then obviously I read the article about the teams that are shut down, the Bruins and Predators, Calgary, Colorado, and Florida are already shut down. So obviously none of those players are playing this week because they're shut down till the end of Christmas. So, so it's just been a crazy week from all that. So if you want to find out more, go to puckpedia.com. And I would recommend it with all this crazy COVID stuff happening that you guys should be looking at Puckpedia during the week just to figure out, it'll help you with figuring out players to add and stuff like that. Yeah, you figure it out. Exactly. So now we'll break into some buy low trades here. Always a buy low. This guy's probably going to keep making my list until he gets up to a respectable average. Brock Besser. I still believe this guy's a buy low. He's gonna finish in the mid threes in his average this year. He's he's going to turn it around, like, because he's consistently never been a player this bad. So I refuse to believe that he is. He's got a ton of talent. Always liked this guy. This is your chance to get him, send those offers in, get him on your team. You're not going to regret it by the end of the year. He could help you win a championship. And then another guy you can get, Brock Nelson. So Brock Nelson, he had a very hot start to the year. He was averaging over 4, and he was the leading scorer on the Islanders. And then he had a injury that kept him out for like 2-3 weeks, and couldn't get back in there. And he just last week returned, and I think he's been struggling getting back to what he was doing before the injury, just getting his conditioning back up or whatever the case may be with him, but his average has dropped below 4 now. So I honestly feel like this is a nice little trade you can make for a guy that has that potential to get back up over 4. This is a good, historically goal-scoring forward, so I feel like this is definitely a chance to buy low before he, turns it around and goes on another hot streak. So you probably got a week or two here where you can send some offers in for Brock Nelson before he picks it back up. And then another big buy low, Shea Theodore. He's going to start turning it around, but Vegas is still figuring out how to gel with each other after getting a bunch of guys back from injury. They're still figuring out how to play with each other right now, because it's been such a weird year for them with injuries. Like two of their top six guys missed like the first almost 2 months of the season. So Shea Theodore is going to figure it back out and be one of the top premier defensemen in fantasy, like he was last year. So this is easily still a good time to buy low on him.
You have one more. I have a couple to add too.
Okay. And I just wanted to point out that Thomas Chabot, he is no longer a buy low. He's going to be an impossible guy to trade for now. He's been doing great over the last 2 weeks, so hopefully you got him when you could, because I was talking about him quite a bit in earlier episodes.
Okay.
So you got any buy lows, Jake?
Yeah, just 2 guys we've already talked about on the Flyers that haven't quite figured it out yet. Sean Couturier.
Yeah.
Is still not done a lot, so he's still probably like a doable trade. And then Travis, how do you say his last name, dude? I always mess it up.
Travis Konechny.
Konechny, yeah. He finally did have a couple good games in the past week, so he might be a little harder to get, but they're still buy lows because they haven't broken out yet of the fully out of the slump.
Yeah, those guys are great buy lows.
And then I wanted to go over this guy, Kevin Shattenkirk. I see he's been dropped in some leagues, but he's starting to pick it back up again.
Okay, so maybe worth a stream, but he might be worth a streaming option, but I don't think he's going to be a hold. I don't think he's consistent enough for that, but I mean, I definitely think that if he's doing good, you can pick him up for a hot streak that he's on.
Yeah, no, I mean, he looks pretty decent, so you could probably get him for nothing or wait for the drop.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good one too. Anybody else?
No, that's it. That's it for me.
All right, so I'm gonna break into sell highs here. So Devin Taves, he's every week he's slowly coming off my list, but like moving farther down the list. But at this point, history shows you that this is just way, way, way more production than he's ever got. I feel like he's scored more points this year so far than he has in his whole career up to this point. So, I don't know how sustainable it is, and it scares me a little bit if I'm an owner of his. But I love the numbers. Obviously, who wouldn't love those numbers? I mean, those are amazing numbers for a guy you probably got super, super late in the draft. So I mean, but I still think that you can get whatever you want for him at this point still right now. I feel like you can make him make any trade go through that you'd want. So, or if you can't get a crazy trade done, just keep him and hope that the numbers don't fall off too much from where they're at. But they're probably going to drop. But you just gotta You just got to take the risk assessment and be like, oh, I don't think they're going to fall off enough to make him a drop. I think they're still going to be respectable by the end of it. Then maybe we're still worth a hold if that's how you feel about it. But if there is any part of you that's like worried about those numbers falling off, try and get those trades through. And then Andrei Svechnikov, his numbers have been slowly coming down over the last few weeks, and now he's on the COVID list. He just started out the year super hot, and I was saying even then that I want to see him put those numbers up consistently, because to this point, everyone always talks about the talent that he has, but he hasn't put the consistency together yet in his young career. So I was just always wondering if he would fall back down to where he kind of normally is, and and to this point, that's kind of been what's happening, and he's still high enough where you can get a trade through, but his numbers are kind of falling. He was up averaging over 5, and now he's down to almost below 4, so his numbers have been coming down.
Yeah.
Drake Batherson. I don't think this guy is a top 5 player in the league. He's a good, talented young player, but he's putting up insane numbers right now. I think you'd be crazy not to try and sell high on him, because those numbers are going to come down a little bit. I don't think this guy is like a Austin Matthews type player. So I would be trying to sell him high right now. I think you could get a lot for him right now. And then lastly, Erik Carlson. He's having a resurgent, like, renaissance year. I would be a little leery of keeping him just because of his age, and the last 3 years that he's had in fantasy hasn't been a great player like he was like 5 years ago. I would just be a little worried that he's going to fall off a cliff at some point, just because he hasn't been anywhere close to this the last couple seasons. So I would be definitely trying to sell him high right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of my list of sell highs. Do you have anybody else you want to add for sell highs, Jake?
No, not really. I don't have anybody specifically going off. I mean, we talked about Buchnevich, but now I feel like just holding him. So,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's a good hold, Buchnevich,
mm-hmm.
but he could be like a little sell high, if you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's it for me, dude. I'm just happy with my championship contender,
Yeah, so I got a really big scoop 'em up list this week, just because I feel like you all want players to kind of look for dealing with all these injuries, getting through all these injuries. So I'm gonna start it off. Pavel Francouz. He's a clear one for me. You need to be picking this guy up.
Okay.
Because Darcy Kemper's out with COVID now. Pavel Francouz is going to be getting all the starts on one of the best teams in the league. There's
Did
no
you
reason.
just drop him?
I did, but I had to, because I had a goalie coming off IR, and I already had 4 goalies. So I was kind of forced to, and I didn't really want to. But
okay,
sometimes you got to do what you got to do,
So when's the other guy coming back? He just entered COVID?
Yeah, he just entered COVID.
Okay.
So.
All right, sweet. I'm just going to look at all your players here as you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, Pavel Francouz, that's a must add. And I know he made our waiver. I know he made our scoop him up list last week, but that's a definite add. And then Martin Necas. I like this guy as a scoop, but he is day to day right now, so that's kind of maybe that lowers him on the list now. But I figured that he was going to be like the guy to own with all the guys out for Carolina and COVID protocols. I thought that he was a clear guy to pick up, but so maybe now instead of Martin Necas, you could pick up a Nino Niederreiter, who's kind of been going off lately, and maybe he'll be the guy carrying Carolina until some guys come back. And then also you can take a look at Eli Tolvanin. He's he's a player that I really like. Helped me make it to the championship last season as a young player. Eli Tolvanin on Nashville Predators. He's kind of had a slow start to the year. I thought that he was going to have a bigger role to start the year just because of how he finished last year. But it's been a little bit of a struggle for him, but now he's starting to turn it around. He's getting that average up. And he's looking really good like he looked last year, so I would be trying to add this guy sooner than later because he's probably going to be scooped up here within the next week or two because he looks like he's starting to get on a hot streak now. And then I referenced this next guy at the start of the episode at Surprises of the Week, Nathan Walker, forward on St. Louis. He had a really good week, and especially if you're in a banger league, I think this guy's worth a pickup. I think they only played 3 games, and he had 15 hits, so that's 5 hits a game. That's great numbers in and of itself. And then he's adding a little bit of scoring to it as well. I mean, while he's on a hot streak like that, you should definitely be picking that guy up in a banger league for sure. And then the next guy, Alexander Romanov. He's been looking really good this week. Had a couple points. He's getting a lot more minutes, which was one of the things that we were always saying about him is he's a promising young player, but wasn't getting a ton of minutes. But he just had almost 25 minutes the other night. Had an assist. He's getting some power play time. Maybe they're expanding his role a little bit, and maybe he'd be worth owning now. I still think so. I think he is worth a pickup if you're really looking for some D.
Nice.
But if you're really hurting for D, I think you can pick up Romanov. He'd be a nice welcome addition. And then
he looks really good actually.
And then another defenseman, Damon Severson. He's a little more obscure. This is more of a deeper league move, but he's had a nice little week as well. Kind of like it just maybe more of a streaming option, but he's had a couple nice games in a row. He just 2 games in a row, almost 30 minutes of ice time. So they're trusting him kind of like for the season. He's at 22 minutes a game, average time on ice. But over the last week, that's bumped up to 27 minutes. He's added 5 minutes to his ice time the last week. So I think that means they're giving him more. They're giving him more power play time. So I definitely think that this guy's worth a scoop, and at least while he's getting that kind of ice time, the odds just drastically increase that you're going to score more points, and that when you're getting that much ice time. So I kind of his numbers aren't flashy, but I think that he's like a very low risk kind of ad if you're looking for somebody that maybe not a lot of people are looking at. Maybe not a lot of people are diving in to the numbers that much, but I think he's a good ad. And then this guy, it's a crime. This next guy, how low owned he is. I honestly had to do a double take when I was doing my research for this episode. I just was looking at my guys and I was taking a look at his stats. Okay, so it's actually gone up a little bit when I checked a couple days ago. So I'm talking about Tony DeAngelo, the Carolina #1 defenseman. When I was checking, he was like 52% rostered, which is insane. This guy is the #1 defenseman on this team. He gets all the power play time. He's having a great year. I can't believe still, though, he's up to 63% rostered now today, as I'm looking at this right now, but that's still way too low for him. He should not be available in a third of leagues. He should be like in the 90% owned. I still can't believe it with this guy. So definitely do a go and check on this guy. If he's available, you got to pick him up. He's a top defenseman.
Hey, more important question.
Yeah.
How is he the only Tony in the league? You type in Tony, there's only one.
I don't know. There's, those Italians, they don't play a lot of hockey. You know what I'm saying?
There could be an American Tony.
No, the Tonys, man, they don't play hockey.
Apparently, dude, that's just weird.
I don't know. Tony Bolonovich, is he in the NHL?
Bolonovich?
No, that's a joke. And then the next guy, Nick Schmaltz, he had a kind of a good week, and Nick Schmaltz was he was an owned player like most of last season, if not all last season. He was pretty good. He was averaging in the low to mid threes last season, at least in our league. He's a he's a good guy to look at. Had a very slow start to the year though, was doing absolutely nothing. A lot of people drafted him and were dropping him like a couple weeks into the season this year. But
Okay.
he's had a good last week. He's starting to turn it around, and Arizona's kind of finally starting to get going a little bit. I mean, geez, they had such a slow start to the year. So maybe Nick Schmaltz is at the very least worth a little streaming option. He looks to be on a little bit of a hot streak, so you could pick him up and have a quick hook on him if you like some of the matchups against some of the goalies. You could pick him up if you think he might score. And then the next guy is really just a guy to own if you're in a banger league. You can pick him up if you're in a banger league and like a categories league too. If you're at the end of the week, you need some more hits, you could pick up Yanni Hakanpää and he'll get you some hits if you need to fill out that category. But Yanni Hakanpää he's a real banger, and he's very available. He's always a guy that you can pretty much add if you just want a couple extra points on like a Sunday. I like to pick him up usually just to get me like those 2-3 points on a Sunday if in a close matchup or something.
Okay.
And then James Van Reamsdike, this guy was owned like all last season, and James Van Reamsdike was great last year, and this year started super slow. He's still very low owned, but he's had a really good week, and I think he's starting to turn it around. Definitely think he's worth a look at least. Just, maybe maybe he's not like one of my top scoops, but I think he's definitely worth a go and just take a look at his numbers, see if it's worth it for you. But I definitely think this could be a guy you could pick up and hold the rest of the season because the talent is there with this guy. He's historically been a pretty good player, so I think that he's starting to turn that around.
Okay.
Next guy, more of an obscure guy, Connor Sherry. This guy is definitely a streamer. He's on a hot streak. He's definitely a guy that you're going to be dropping quick, but I think that for at least the time being, he can get you some points. He's on a hot streak right now. He's feeling it. He's shooting the puck a little bit more than he has so far this season, this week, and over the last week. So if you're really, really desperate for a forward and you're in a deep league, I think Sherry would be a good move for the time being. And then my next guy, I think this is one of my top scoops still, Andre Kasha for Toronto Maple Leafs. He's doing great, and he's on that top line with Austin Matthews, and he's just killing it up there. He's doing great. Definitely, this is a very low risk ad right now, and you just ride him until he's no longer on that line, because once he's off that line, his numbers are going to drop like a sack of potatoes. But he's doing great right now, and is definitely worth an ad. That's no question in my mind. He's worth an ad right now. And so
yeah, I got him.
Yeah, I know you do, and it was a great move. Next two guys, I know Jake's not going to agree with me.
No, they're not.
But
I just looked at them.
I think they're both worth it. They're both scoring over the last couple of weeks now. I think Kirby Dach and Jonathan Taves are worth a pickup right now. I think they are. And you can disagree all you want, Jake, but the numbers don't lie, my bud. The numbers don't lie.
He's got 3 goals.
And then Kirby Dach, he's been getting some assists, scoring a couple goals as well. And Kirby Dach, he actually hits a lot. He's a nice little player if he can get going. He has the potential to be. He has a potential to be a very, very good player, and I want to see it come to fruition. Like, there's so much to like about him, but there's no flash to him. He'll figure it out at some point. He's still very young. I still don't think he's 21. I think he's 20 still. So, I mean, he's got a ton of time to figure it out. But I think at the very least he's worth a stream right now because he's getting a lot of ice time at the moment. And then we talked about him already, but Nino Niederreiter, definitely I think you should be going to pick this guy up. It looks like he's kind of carrying the Carolina right now while they got some guys out. So Niederreiter's definitely worth a scoop. And then also defenseman on the Islanders, my next guy, Noah Dobson. He's back up to getting like 25 minutes of ice time a game. He's back up to being on the power play. Looks like he gained favor once again with the head coach. He was kind of in the doghouse for a few weeks there, so he was like a drop because he was only getting like 17 minutes a game for like 3 weeks. But now he's back up, getting all the ice time. He must have done something to get the coach back, giving him the chances again. But he definitely should be owned now. He's on that top power play, getting all the ice time. So go pick up Noah Dobson. And then another guy that I really like for picking up this week, Ilya Mishiev on Toronto. He's back from injury. This guy was a very promising young guy at the end of last season. And he came back from injury. He's missed like the whole beginning of the season. He just came back this week, finally healthy, and they immediately inserted him into the top 6. They're not giving him any time to figure, to get started for the year, any conditioning on like the third line or something. They put him right back, out of the frying pan and into the fire, I guess, with this guy. He's just inserted into the top 6.
How are there 5 Ilyas and only 1 Tony? That's my question.
I don't know. I just
5 Ilyas, bro. What a league.
Well, I'm telling you, Italians, they're not that common in the hockey league.
Yeah, apparently.
All the Tonys are playing soccer. So.
My God.
But give Ilya Mishiev a look. He's available. He's less than 10% owned at the moment, but you're getting him before he even does anything.
Less than 1% owned.
Oh, okay. So I was off by 9%. I was off by a lot, but
yeah. Premature, but Zach went for it.
He's right in the top 6. He's playing on that second line. He's on a power play. I mean,
there are better grabs.
He's definitely worth an ad, though. So I think he's going to be good. And then still really low owned, Trevor Zegras. This guy needs to be picked up. It's insane. He's having a great year. And
yeah, he is.
So be picking up Trevor Zegras. I'm going to keep putting him on here until he's like 75, 80% owned.
Probably won't be.
And then Michael Bunting. You should still be picking this guy up. He's on that first line, and they're looking great. That first line of Austin Matthews, Michael Bunting, and Andre Kasha, they're really gelling right now. They might keep that line together for a little bit of time because they're just looking so good. So be picking up Michael Bunting. I think you kind of want a piece of everybody playing with Austin Matthews. Everybody wants a taste of that. Just give us a little taste of some of that Austin Matthews. Some of those Austin Matthews numbers trickle down to these guys. I mean, who wouldn't want that? Or you could be like Zach and just get all the numbers because you have Austin Matthews, so you're getting a piece of every scoring. Anyways, my last scoop, Anthony Stollars. You need to be picking this guy up. John Gibson is kind of struggling a little bit lately, and he's been having little injuries pop up. They're kind of at the moment giving Stollars more of the starts. That's not going to last. John Gibson is going to get back, but at least for the next week or maybe 2 weeks, Stollars is the guy to be picking up. He's putting up really good numbers. Just until John Gibson figures it out, I think Anthony Stollars is a pretty good move for goalie.
Okay.
You have anybody else to add, Jake? Anybody else you were kind of thinking about?
No, I don't think so, dude. I think the 20 guys was good. Obviously, a couple of deep league moves with the 0.3% owned guy we talked about, but
you know what, Jake? You can go run your own hockey podcast.
I've never talked about a 0.3% owned player.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure to go up.
That 0.3% was me picking him up in every league, and
yeah, might have been, dude.
I moved it from 0.2 to 0.3.
I'm sure he'll get above 1.
We can only hope.
Yeah. God damn it. No, I got nobody additional like you talked about. Just like a couple of guys I grabbed and
So you do think the 20 guys is enough then? Okay, good to know.
Yeah, dude. Oh my
I
god.
felt like I had to have a big list this week because there was a ton of
Yeah,
injuries. You know,
besides, I
I got to.
guess.
This is literally
Mhm.
everybody worth adding. There's not really many other guys you could add to this list. I feel like these are all the guys that are available and they're doing decent. You know.
Yeah.
So, I hope I was able to help you figure out some of your injury situations. I hope that your league has enough IR spots, at least 3 or 4, where you can, makes it a little more able to survive this type of craziness. But
Hmm.
definitely be taking a look at some of these guys. These guys are available, and as of this point, as of this time on Sunday late morning, none of these guys are in COVID protocol. So these are guys that you can get to help you. So.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to wrap it up here with the best schedules of the week. So I'm a nice little tool that you can use for that if you ever want to look at it yourself. For the weekly schedules, leftwinglock.com, they have a nice little grid that tells you every team's schedule and all of that. And it even breaks down by strength of schedule. So it'll tell you who has the easier matchups, who has the harder matchups. So this is not a great week. This is going to be a very low scoring week for fantasy hockey.
Hmm.
There's only one team this whole week that has 3 games. So uh, this is going to be a rough week to get through, to be honest. It's going to be very low. Actually, no, there's 2 teams that have 3 games. Edmonton has 3 games as well. So Edmonton and Dallas are your best schedules with 3 games. So maybe you can look at some streaming options there. But those are your guys. Chicago only has 1 game. Carolina only has 1 game. Detroit only has 1 game. The Rangers only have 1 game. And then Seattle and Toronto and Winnipeg only have 1 game. So all of those teams, unless you have some of the top players on those teams, then obviously you want to own them. But don't be picking anybody up from those teams this week for sure.
Hmm.
Um, or this is your chance to pick some of the guys up that I was talking about, like Bunting or Kasha on Toronto. Maybe since it is such going to be a low scoring week, maybe you can just still pick some of these guys up and get them like a week early. Because everybody will be wanting these guys like next week when they play more games.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's only a couple teams playing 3 games, and then basically every other team is playing 2 games. So it's just kind of the same across the board for the whole league. It's just not a great week schedule wise at all. But, after Christmas, all these other teams will be back from the COVID shutdown and it'll be back to normal. But yeah, this is going to be a weird week to get through for sure.
For sure. Yeah. Christmas week, baby.
Christmas week, baby. So, so yeah, I think you have anything else to add, Jake, or is this
No, I think we
wrapping
hit it on the head.
another week here in the good old hockey league,
Yeah, like they say in hockey.
like they say in hockey?
Let's do that hockey.
Do that hockey like they play at most hockey games. The good old hockey game is the best game you can name.
Wait, they really play that?
They play that song, yeah, it's from like the 40s or something. The
Yeah,
good
they
old
really need to
the good
update
old
their
hockey game.
marketing scheme or something. Jeez, that's sad. All right,
Yeah,
all right,
so
dude.
with that, we'll leave you with that. So thanks for listening, everybody. Remember to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. We keep trying to grow our community. Go follow us on our social media.
Mhm.
We got Facebook, facebook.com/Garden of Sports Podcast. We got Instagram, instagram.com/Garden of Sports. And Jake's lovely
Mhm.
wife is doing a great job running that for us over there. She's really handling that well. And then we got Twitter, twitter.com/GOSPod2021. And the lovely Deanna is running that Twitter account for us, and she's doing great over there, getting it popping. So go follow us. You won't regret it. You can find the links to all of those pages on our YouTube page as well. So when you go over there to subscribe to us, you can also go to all our social medias. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? All right, so we hope you all have a good week and make some good moves, and we'll catch you all next week. See you, everybody.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See ya.